What are you looking for?
Do you need to sign it?
The property appraiser's office, agreement, the property appraiser's office.
I signed that.
Yeah.
They're looking for it.
I did sign that.
Okay.
I remember signing it.
Hey, you did.
Can I hang that tomorrow?
Yeah, for me. I'm slowly remembering now. And I think I may have given it to Sangita. Somebody told me that Sangita needed to sign it, she reviewed that, and I'm not sure if it was that contract
Not that
or
one.
the other one that we did that at the board meeting.
That was a UCAS agreement.
Not anymore. Okay. I'll have to, let me send her an email. See if I can find it.
Okay.
Otherwise, $3,000 every eye.
You do get to watch her again. All right, good, you're kidding.
She's coming up. So is Joe, by the way. He's probably in the same
Good.
elevator.
So I already did both.
Right now.
It's been a while, though, yeah.
And that started on one.
Yeah. Yeah, it does, like a million years ago.
Well,
Me too.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not right there, but it seems to be getting a lot better. They will just kind of slowly but surely get better. Right, so they're pretty much.
No, we're actually in different departments.
Yeah.
Right, different departments. So after comes for me,
Yeah, okay.
and marketing communication.
Okay.
And that was Bob, we have another kind of community. Maybe we have to. You get the right mix.
Depends on what day it is.
Hey, council members.
Yeah, what was this one like now? How you doing? How are you? Blessed, how you doing? Good, I was gonna call you last week. I was working on a story about Sawgrass Lake, and although my comment is no longer there, he flat out lied to you at that meeting, I guess it was 2-3 weeks ago, when he said Swiftmud said that everything in the gun club was cleaned up. Swiftmud is now suing the gun club. Yeah, so that is, just flat out lie.
I know what, Joe?
Yeah.
Joe's in the restroom.
Whatever.
Joe's restroom, okay.
No, he's
really far away.
That's why I asked him that, to get on the record. Yeah, I know, and I saw that, in fact, what's your email? I'll send you a copy of this with my,
Who's Janet?
I'll send you this with my, it's about an 8-page thing.
How was your walker from? Your walker?
Oh, yeah.
Somebody's very tall.
Lunch? I'm supposed to get lunch now, wait.
Yeah.
I saw the bus driver by me when I came in, but I thought it was gonna stay at 1:30.
The electric one?
Yeah.
Oh, I think
He's
or
tall.
no, Art. I think he might be playing.
Almost ran me over.
Hi, Patricia.
Was the bus actually driving or was it on a truck?
Who's driving? Was it the blue bus? That's
Yeah,
the 100% electric? Yeah, right by me. This is gonna get charged.
So you can't get that far, because they only get a little 150 miles.
Was that any different from one that we had a demo with? Like the same, or was that different?
That's the Jay Leno. The Jay Leno bus. Thanks to Jay.
Well, good afternoon. We have a quorum, and I'll call the Personnel Committee meeting to order. And the first item of business is to see if we have any public comments. I don't have any cards. Is there any member of the public? Not hearing any members of the public. We will go to our action item. The first action item is the minutes from the June 24th meeting. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Is there a motion?
approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. They pass unanimously. A item of housekeeping is that in our last meeting, we said that we would be having all of the committee performance appraisals submitted by the end of July, and as we approached that date, the executive director had relayed to me that some of the board members wanted to have an individual conversation with him prior to submitting their comments. Also, at that time, we only, I think, had 3 that had been submitted, so I made the decision to defer the deadline for the ratings for 1 month, and so I'd ask the committee if you would ratify and confirm my decision to delay it.
Also move.
Second.
Okay. Any further comments? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. That passes unanimously. We are then on the action item, which is really the only action item that we have on our agenda, which is the CEO evaluation recommendation. And it is a recommendation that we will be submitting to the full board. I would say that the information that was distributed to you, you should have 2 documents. One is a worksheet with ratings and the history of the ratings of the board members over time. And the other is the performance review with the consolidated comments. I would say that this one that's here and the one that I believe it was distributed to the committee earlier this morning.
By 8:49 to be exact.
Was
this one different or the same?
This is the same as that one. The one that was distributed with the original agenda did not have the vice chairman's comments in it, so this is the corrected one. And so with that, I would recognize Mr. Miller for a report on his conversations with the board members after seeing their appraisal.
Yeah, I just wanted to have a nice slide. Okay.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Just a few housekeeping points here. We had our joint meeting with the Heart Executive Committee meeting, starting in this room here this time at 2 o'clock. So I think we have about an hour that we can discuss this. Just for your information, I think Sarah and I have discussed how we can kind of get through this in the next hour. My presentation will be relatively short. At your places is a narrative sheet, about 3 pages, called Response to 2015 Performance Evaluation, which I have been sharing with each of you when I've been having my one-on-ones, and that's what I'm not going to go through every point on there in detail in my presentation. My presentation takes 8 or 9 minutes here, but it's a summary of that. First of all, I want to express my appreciation to each of you and to the entire PSCA board for the time and energy you took in completing the evaluation and the time that you took to meet with me one-on-one. I have met with all 15 PSCA board members one-on-one to go over their comments As I think most of you know, I have been incredibly reflective about those comments, and certainly appreciate the feedback and appreciate very much each board member telling me they hoped that their comments would help PSTA and myself improve as we move forward. So I thank you very much for that. I have a number of new initiatives that I would like to talk to you about that I am already underway implementing in response to the collective feedback by the PSTA board to this evaluation. First and foremost, and I think this is the number one job of any chief executive officer, and certainly mine, is in providing solid communication with the full PSTA board. I'm very pleased that I have, in my time here at PSTA, been increasing the number of one-on-one agenda reviews that I've had, and now I have a new system in place where I will have agenda reviews with all 15 board members at least every other month. In addition, because we have such a very successful and strong committee system here at PSTA, before major action items come before committees, I am now reaching out and having agenda reviews with the committee members before the committees take an action on these items. I think that's very important. Of course, I'm very, very pleased with the response I'm getting back from the PSTA board members about my weekly emails, and those will continue to come out every Friday unless the board wants to change that. One key item clearly is to make sure that the board is aware of emerging issues. And we've put in new systems in place at PSTA to make sure that always occurs, whether it be on weather-related events like we had this weekend, or that we were worried about for today, or emerging media coverage. Another action item that I have launched and that I plan to do at each board meeting, again, in order to provide better communication with the PSTA board, is to, at the end of the board meeting, when I normally kind of have a little time to speak before your comments, I will go through sort of an action register of questions that I have told board members I will follow up on or get answers to, or if you'd like a presentation on something, I will have jotted that down, and then I will just repeat my list to make sure that no one's item has been missed. I think that's a key, follow through kind of item that is important. The second thing I want to cover briefly is some feedback I received in my one-on-one and in some performance evaluations to better articulate how PSTA is accountable, how we as an organization are working on our accountability. I think some of you might know this about me, but something I personally feel very proud of and want to be sort of my hallmark is that I am looking to drive accountability in every possible part of the organization. And I believe I'm very, very proud of the initiatives we've taken. Of course, I'm very proud to work with many of you on creating a new, robust executive committee this spring, where we didn't have one before, that provides accountability over the board and over my development of the agendas for the meeting. When there were very well-known issues with how we complied with grants, I immediately launched a complete risk assessment of our grant compliance issues at PSTA, totally changed the procedures that we do to follow our grants, presented those findings to the Finance and Performance Committee, and then we have now had a federal and a state audit of our accounting, of our grant accounting, and came through with perfect marks. The Path Forward Plan, which you have in front of you, is not just a strategic plan or a pretty picture, but it is a strategic plan that has accountability measures that you adopted back in May that we are tracking every single month. I am very, very proud that for the first time ever, all 600 PSTA employees have a portion of their compensation that is based on performance. Of course, that's how my compensation is adjusted, it's based entirely on performance. All the administrative employees are now based on a performance appraisal that governs how what increases they may or may not receive. That's the first time that's been happening at PSTA in quite a while, and it's the first time ever for our unionized employees. All of our unionized employees now have a portion of their compensation not based on seniority like almost every other union, but based on performance. When issues came up last year about our bus maintenance practices, I immediately started listening sessions down in the maintenance shop. I got personally involved in talking to the supervisors and talking to the mechanics, one-on-one, brainstorming on ways we might improve procedures, bring our maintenance program to the next level. They came up with a brainstorm list of activities, and we are tracking those monthly. Of course, thanks so much to the idea from Commissioner Long, we now have performance metrics in both our federal and state lobbyist contracts. When issues came up more than a year ago about our public records request process, we completely revamped that, identified a single point of contact, got that person city clerk training. I worked with Alan to develop a comprehensive training session for all the PSTA employees on how to properly respond to public records requests, and we are tracking the response times now for the first time. We are down now to averaging about a day and a half as our average response time for public records requests. Of course, you probably know and probably remember that had us join the American Bus Benchmarking Group, and that has saved PSTA millions of dollars as we track those things. What maybe you don't know about is we hired a part-time employee called a manager of incidents and behavior. This is a woman that works part-time over in our driver supervisory area, and when we notice an operator having a number of complaints or maybe accidents, before they start going down the road of a discipline track, they go and meet with the manager of incident behavior, and she counsels them on ways they might provide better customer service or a safer operation to try to steer them away from the discipline process, which is not usually ends up very good. But if we can get them before that, that's better for the employees. Last but not least is what I know the board has been going through just recently with our route changes. I instituted a route performance monitoring program, so you can see quantitatively how all the routes stack up against each other. That's the first time that's been done at PSTA. Then, I was very, very proud of the work that the staff did at my insistence that we don't just cut the routes, propose cutting the routes, and wait for the public hearing to see what happens, but we identify alternatives for each route and how folks might be able to get around even if the bus isn't there. And I'm very proud of how that has gone so far, reaching out to Neighborly Care Network, other partnerships, trying to maybe see if we can do something with Uber and Lyft. Those are all ideas on ways we do not intend to leave anyone stranded. We want to be a transportation provider for everyone in our community, and that's what we're committed to. And when we're providing public transportation, the emphasis is on the word public. It is public. That's why I was very proud that we had 4 times the minimum requirement of public workshops and inputs before you voted last week on our route changes. Last but not least is, and this was some feedback I received from several board members, it is clearly important for the CEO of the organization to have a vision for where we are going. And of course, as you well know, we did have a very strong, well-thought-out vision for many years here at PSTA called Green Light Pinellas. But with that not possible, I did develop the Path Forward Strategic Plan to provide a new short-term vision. That short-term vision, the Path Forward Plan, principal objective is to get PSTA on solid financial foundation so that then we can move forward from there. We have another number of great, I believe, very successful initiatives on the, in the very short term. In downtown St. Petersburg, we are going to eliminate the buses from ringing Williams Park, something that's been desired since the 1950s for the first time. I believe, thanks to a lot of work the board has done with me, I think we are much better ahead, much further ahead with our legislative agenda, and much more strategic in that. We have a HART meeting coming up shortly. That's part of that agenda, and we will have success in implementing pilot projects for our community. And last, we have a great opportunity with our new union that is much stronger or closer to the employees and can better communicate with the employees. We can have a new labor agreement. I still do have a long-term vision for the organization. I know we need to communicate to some of our newer board members that we have this vision. Some of you who've been on the board for a long time know this already, but some of our new maybe don't. My objective is clearly still to get us to a high-frequency grid network across the entire community, from northern Pinellas County down to Gulfport. Having higher frequencies on the routes will generate new riders. It will attract choice riders, folks that have other options but choose public transportation. But we never, Patty Johnson certainly knows this, we never want to forget the important link we provide to those who need us, who have no other option while we seek those choice riders. All of this long-term vision is tied to economic development. That is the goal of our organization, is to be better for our community. That's why our pilot projects, our legislative priorities are the Clearwater Beach to the airport service and the downtown St. Pete BRT to the beach, tied to our tourism economy. I'm very thankful that we have a new director of the Pinellas MPO that has this same objective, and I very much look forward, I am already working with them, hand in hand, on this long-term vision. So, thank you very much for giving me the time to just describe sort of where I see us going, how I want to respond to these very thoughtful evaluations. I'll be glad to answer any questions, otherwise the chair can take back the meeting.
Thank you. Just to rephase our goal today is not really to decide what is best for Brad. It's not really to decide what is best for PSTA, but rather it's what is best for the people of Pinellas, the customers that we serve. It was pointed out to me recently that probably the most of the public in Pinellas County probably don't have a clue as to who Brad Miller is, what he does, or how he does it. But, and to an extent, they probably don't know a whole lot about PSTA. But what we're doing, I believe, is really important work that affects the lives of the people in Pinellas, and how we do it is the decision that we're facing today. We have a large board of 15 people from different backgrounds and communities, and we would expect some diversity in the feedback that we get from those people. We do things in the sunshine and with transparency, and our job is to make a recommendation to the board, who will really be making the final decision. In order to structure this decision a little bit so that we can complete our time by really 1:30 so that we can get ready for the 2 o'clock meeting, there are some options that have been prepared that identify 3 of the flavors that we could possibly take. And I'd ask you to just take a couple minutes and plan through these options. Did everyone get one?
I'm sorry?
Do we have other copies?
Oh, the option?
Yeah.
I think everybody has one.
Yes.
Okay. And again, these options are just kind of as a place to start our discussion, try to structure with it, and maybe we can start with a granularity. Councilmember Newton?
Yeah, I just want to make a statement if I could. I appreciate all the hard work Brad has done. And if anybody anywhere in Pinellas don't know who Brad is, they must be living under a rock. Because I know during the Greenway campaign, he was not everywhere, he was everywhere. I attended multiple public meetings with him all over the place, all up in Dunedin and Gulfport and St. Pete and wherever they had people, excuse me, that were in need of public transportation and that we provide for them. I was right there with them whenever I got a call or whenever I was requested any public venue as a board member. It's not a robbery to be there to make sure we represent the interests of the people that we're trying to provide service to, which is our end users. I like the response sheet that Brad went over. I know when we met back in, it was 2 meetings ago, well, we canceled the one, but our initial meeting, there was some concerns that came up about one-on-ones with individual members, and I'm glad I like the way proactively he goes out and does just that. Try to get these things lined up, try to get the concerns. I like the part about the committees, how you go to the board members prior to coming to the committees, so we can have their input in the conversation while we deliberate to find out what our solution is going to be. So when we go upstairs, maybe it won't be another lengthy, another 1-hour committee meeting because the members didn't have a chance to have any input. I like that part about it because I stated myself, I'm not on every committee, so it's kind of difficult to understand when they come up saying we want this. I'm like, well, what about that? What about this? It raises a lot of questions. So I love that part about being more proactively. And he's exactly right with the demise of the Green Light Pinellas revenue program that we were going through. We have a new one with the path forward. So I think that we should be focusing on moving forward and the criteria in the path forward to use as a guide to by which to judge our CEO's performance. That.
Any other?
Well,
I'm sorry. Were you through?
That said, I was going to make a motion that I would propose option A. As you know, the CEO didn't take a salary increase. I think it was last year that we went through this process. He had a zero increase. Under where we were meeting with a group that he's making less than right now. I think that would be more than fair.
I'll second that motion. Make some comments, Mr. Chair.
All right. Mr. Berkeley?
First of all, I would echo what Commissioner Newton said. Secondly, I think it is incredibly important that we recognize a couple of things that we have done that have really dramatically improved PSTA overall and made us recognized as head and shoulders above many other similar organizations around the country. First of all, we're involved with the American Bus Benchmarking Group. That allows us to double-check ourselves against bus companies across the country. And we have seen our rankings, and in many cases we are at or near the top. In areas where we were not at or near the top, we've taken steps to make adjustments to enhance our ranking within that department. We had actually, many of you will recall, a meeting where the national members of the American Bus Benchmarking Group came here to PSTA and were very impressed with our facility and with our operation. Second thing that is very important is we have had very difficult audits which have shown that our financial house is in order. Part of that is, of course, the acquisition of our treasurer. But secondly, it's because we have taken the steps necessary to have these specific audits that will allow us, and I can't remember the name of the audit, but the audit that we had for making sure that we are
Federal Transit.
Yeah.
The Federal Transit Administration?
Yeah. So we are on target with regard to our financial situation. Thirdly, we are taking steps to acquire new equipment, even though we do not have the large federal funding that we have had in the past. So we are continuing to make sure that our ridership is given quality equipment on which to ride. And finally, I think the other key issue is that Mr. Miller has been here 4 years now, and nobody knows the operation better than he does. So it would be silly, I think, to quote President Lincoln about changing horses in midstream. And I would suggest that as we move forward with the plan forward, that we continue down the road of doing the correct things for the citizens of Pinellas County, and that we retain Mr. Miller as our CEO, and that he have a raise as Commissioner Newton suggested.
Let me just clarify, in the option A, it says a raise of someplace between 1% and 3%.
Oh, I'm sorry. It was
The clarification is that we would come back and decide what that raise would be.
Well, my motion was, I'm sorry, it's like the 3%. That would bring us to 176. That's still below our closest benchmark in TEO, which is 177.
So your intent was to include the 3%?
Yes, sir, I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah, that's right. That was my
I see some other comparisons, but they're nowhere near where we are. Trying to stay right where we're at in the same general area.
Other discussion?
I have a question as it relates to process at the moment. This committee, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Chair, our goal today is to make a recommendation to the executive committee or to the board?
Well,
doesn't this go to the executive committee next?
the executive committee will review this, but our recommendation is, the executive committee, our recommendation is going to the board. So we would, for whatever we present, would be presented to the board, although we will have the executive committee review it at that next step.
Okay, well then I have a couple of comments and then thoughts, if I might. First of all, time and circumstance are a funny thing, and it occurs to me that the timing in which we're involved in with this evaluation is a little squirrely, and I'm going to explain what I mean by that. But the other thing that I find even more striking is the motion and second to approve option A. Given that we have this score sheet in front of us that clearly reflects that 10 out of 15 members of our board have a score of less than 3 on a 5-point system. And on top of that, Mr. Barkley made reference to the length of time that Brad has been here. Unless I'm reading this wrong, each year that he has been evaluated, the scores have declined. They haven't gone up. So while I clearly agree that there are some very positive accomplishments that we have made over the last since the failure of Greenlight, let's just start there because we kind of had to regroup and start all over. There have just been some incredibly good things that have happened, and like every other organization or large group in the world, we tend to focus on the negatives. But right now, today, we're making a recommendation about Brad's performance as it relates to the path forward, and that's a problem for me today. And the reason it's a problem for me today is because this evaluation that we were asked to do is not based on the goals and objectives that we gave to Brad. So I don't find it to be helpful. I don't find it to be fair to Brad. And I don't find it to be fair to the agency as a whole. So besides the fact that we're operating in the sunshine, and Brad is sitting here, which I'm sure is uncomfortable for everyone, we have to keep in mind what is the best for the Pinellas Suncoast Transit Authority. And I think we have an obligation to evaluate Brad based on the path forward, the goals and objectives. And we have not done that. Beyond that, we have some very aggressive goals that we have set out, both at the federal and the state level, and with our partners at HART. And the timing of moving with these options has the potential to disrupt what is, in my perception, a very positive movement forward for the agency. So I think you all know from the score that I gave to Brad, I was and remain one of his strongest critics, would you not say?
I would say.
I also am very focused on what's in the best interest of the agency and what's in the best interest of our newfound partnership with HART, which we're going to be exploring further in a few minutes from now. So I cannot support option A for all the reasons I've just articulated, and I'm sorry it took me so long to do so.
All right. Commissioner Redemption?
I cannot support the motion. I'll save all of my comments for after this motion passes or fails.
Okay, let me have a couple of comments here. I think we have some really important things to do over the next 6 months. We have the path forward. We have the working with Whit Blanton and the MPO and the PPC on Pinellas' future. We have the emphasis that's in the path forward on the building relationships with employers for the UPass and to look at increasing our revenue through employer contributions. We have had recent problems, but in my opinion they are correctable as was presented here. We do have very different segments of our community that have quite varying perceptions of what our duties are and how we do them, and we will continue to have diversity in the comments that we get from our community. I recall with considerable frustration that when Mr. Garling left and we were waiting for Mr. Miller to come and go through that recruiting process, it was 8 months of frustration for me because we did not have a strong leader during that time. And speaking a little bit to option C, I'm not sure that there are a lot of folks chomping at the bit to come here and replace Mr. Miller if we went with option C. So that's not the agenda item on the table. I wouldn't support it. I think that there are some questions in the mind of board members as I read the ratings, and so I would be leaning more toward option B, and rather than and would lean toward making that as the recommendation to the board. We have a motion, we have a second. Are there further questions, comments? Mr. Newton, Councilmember Newton.
I don't want to misspeak, but is there in parliamentary rules, you can make a substitute motion, correct? And that supersedes the motion on the floor?
Somebody could amend the motion that's on the floor and substitute it with a different motion.
Or if you wish to withdraw and rephrase your motion, if your second agrees to that, you may do that.
Correct.
Well, I just want to, I'll make a comment, and it's whatever the pleasure of the body. My reason for selecting option A is I spend a lot of time with this man. And the board members are not obligated to travel throughout this county to every public meeting to try to see what, and look at it, the people that they are servicing, so they don't have to do that, and a lot of them didn't, even though we asked of that. Now, I sit on a lot of boards, NPO, Tampa Bay Regional Planning, WorkNet. I never see one, not one, CEO or head of those boards work as hard as this man in all my 8 years of being elected official. Never. You know, I mean, you see him at a board meeting, and then that's it. You get a memo, you get an email, that's it. You know, so they're more or less a figurehead. For all the stuff out there being all about transit, this man has probably forgotten much of it than anyone would ever know. And he's proven that time and time again. Under his 4 years, look at all that has happened throughout this county. Now, and I read all the comments too that everybody submitted. If the members want to continue to live in the past and judge this man by the past, they can do that. But you ought to take this right here, just moving forward, and get rid of it. Because you're never going to be able to go forward if you keep living in the past. That's why they have rearview mirrors. My problem with a lot of the comments that I read is a lot of that stuff is old. It's old. And they're letting it get traction, and they keep regurgitating it. It doesn't change what is now. And I hate when politics rears its ugly head into the picture as what we should do based on what some other politician may or may not do. You know, I think that's wrong also, because we all up here, I think, except for the citizen appointees, are elected officials, and we have our own personal politics and reasons that we do things. But it should not come into play with the people that desire transportation. That's our job. And as a board, we're just making a recommendation. We're not finalizing nothing here. It may go upstairs, and the whole board may want to see. Who knows? But all we're doing is making a recommendation.
You're correct.
But if we don't have, I don't see the votes to support A, so I wouldn't even go to a vote on it. I would remove my motion, and I would move B. And hopefully that somebody upstairs will see the value in having a gentleman like Brad to be able to pay him and keep him here. That's all. So I would remove my motion for option A and make a motion for option B, because none of the other board members would like to do a substitute motion.
Are you willing to withdraw your second?
I am not. I will not second that.
Okay.
So then the first motion to approve option A is still on the floor.
All right. Ms. Johnson, you're a member of the board. You chose to come. If you have a comment, I would welcome that comment. If you wish to just bypass it this time, that's entirely up to you. So hearing no comment.
I'll go ahead, Bill, but one of the things that you just said about this agency just doesn't belong in a vacuum all by itself. This agency serves over 1 million people in Pinellas County. And I told this to Brad. I really, really, really think it's important that when Janet goes to Homeless Leadership Board, transportation is there to participate. I think that this agency is economic development, Pinellas County Economic Development. This agency needs to be a part of that. This agency needs to be, and that's going forward. That's not sitting in the past. That's I don't think that we can get there without this whole county on board. Everybody that pays taxes and doesn't pay taxes. That's just how important this board is.
Comments related to the motion. We have some limited time. We have a motion on the floor and a second. Is there further comments on this motion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed signify by saying no.
No.
And the motion fails 3-2. Is there a second motion?
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, do we need to poll everybody how they voted on this?
I think we know how, do you have the ayes and nays?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Vice Chairman Michalski, do you have a motion?
Well,
Or,
I have a concept. So,
okay, let's try to step through this as quick as we can. So thank you very much.
well, I saved my comments for, when I look at option B, and I understand the comments that you gave, and I also understand the comments that Commissioner Long gave, and understand, I think what I'm hearing, that you're concerned about the timing of all of this. I'm also concerned about the timing, in as much as you just said, I've been through 3 major processes of finding a new leader to organizations. And not always, but in the majority of the time, that takes roughly 6 months. This is asking for us to, it's saying we support CEO Brad Miller's continued leadership. And that another review would be done at mid-year, in early 2016. I'm concerned about waiting. While you guys are concerned about doing everything now, I'm concerned about waiting that long and how those things affect the agency. I feel that Brad has responded in many ways to the issues of our concerns. I do not believe that my comments were political in any nature, Councilmember Newton, so I really was looking at the betterment of the agency. The unfortunate thing is that the tabulation sheet does show, you say 10 out of 15, I count 9, but maybe I'm miscounting, board members graded Brad below a 3. And I think that we have to address that. I think it is a 10. Either or, it's a majority. And I think we have to address that. And I thank you, Brad, for putting together your action plan in response to that. And I think that your heart is always in the right place. I think you have a strong desire to improve things. But I also feel that we have been operating in a reactionary mode. I think it's incumbent upon us as board members to do what's best to move the organization forward, to move transit options forward, and to be leaders on this front. And in order to do that, we have to have the confidence of our community leaders and of the community itself. Given the last year's events, I don't feel that we have that confidence. I think we all felt earlier on in the year with our workshop and our path forward that things would move along and that maybe we could rebuild it back then. But we're still here, still trying to rebuild and not having moved any farther. And I don't think we can get there with the way we are currently operating. I'm not saying I don't support the plan forward or the path forward document. I just don't believe that we can get there in the same manner as we've been going. I think that waiting hurts the agency's progress to address this. I don't want to kick the can down the road. I think in the best interest of rebuilding PSTA, its reputation, its organization, and its place in the community, I think we have to respond to what we just saw on on our review tabulation sheet, what we've been hearing from the community, and I believe that it's time that we look for new leadership, given the fact that it would take 6 months to probably accomplish that. Having said that, I also believe that there may be an option of doing that where it might not interrupt the things that I think everybody's worried about, the legislation and all the working with the legislators and all of that. And it obviously would have to be a board decision as well as a decision on something of, Brad's part. While it's not usually something that agencies do, as I said earlier, I do think that Brad's heart is in the right place. I think by asking for his resignation, but asking him to stay on until he finds a job or until we find his replacement, whichever comes first, accomplishes two things. It shows that we're looking for new leadership while we're also trying to cover these things that he's intricately involved in. It also allows for him to have a job while he's looking for another job. So I think in the best interest of the organization and moving transit forward, that is what I would like to propose.
So is that a motion?
Yes.
Is there a second to that motion? Hearing no second, that motion dies for lack of a second. Do we have an alternative motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would like to offer a different kind of a solution, kind of sort of is part of option B, and to see if Mayor Bujalski would find this amenable. I don't have to reread all of this, but I just wonder if we could agree to use option B and amend it to not have it be an open-ended mid-year assessment, but to, instead of early 2016, put in there no later than March 31st. And in that revised appraisal process, we would also evaluate the federal and state legislative initiatives, and at the same time tie all of that directly back to the goals and objectives in our path forward plan that we all so enthusiastically embraced. And just as a last thought, it has been my experience, given that I've worked a majority of my life in senior management, that you don't get much done with a lame duck leader. And it isn't quite fair to the employees and the agency who have no sustainability or I mean, it's just, what are you doing? You're just kind of biding time, and I don't know anybody that pays somebody to look for another job. We're dealing with taxpayers' dollars here, and we need to ensure that we're getting the best bang for the buck. So I have no doubt that Brad can work ferociously moving our agenda forward, while at the same time staying focused on running the transit system and not getting into the weeds with the employee, employer labor issues that have plagued us. I think that's
I sense that's a motion.
kind of, sort of. It's a lengthy one.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
You said not later than 3/31.
Right.
And tie the evaluation to the path forward. I was a little unclear what you meant, evaluate the federal and state initiatives.
Well, yes, we have very...
Is that a part of the, this is just to include in the evaluation the progress against the state program?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a measurement of success or not.
Is there a second to that motion?
I would second that. I got a question though. some of those, things that I think Brad mentioned in, our lobbying, stuff that we're going to do. I'm just wondering, will it all be wrapped up by March 31st, or does it go for the?
Well, that's up to him.
This is a mid-year assessment
No,
by
but the question.
by the board.
My question is to make the motion. Was everything that we're gonna be gauging on be wrapped up by then, or will it still be in limbo?
Well, Mark, it should be, unless the legislators decide to walk out on their jobs again.
Okay. I'm just wondering, because I mean, you can't control that. That's unfair to make
Yeah,
it
my
certain.
personal observation is this would be, we would do this review, it would be to the point that it is
Right.
done. Whatever, you can't control something that somebody else is doing, so.
And the point is to test, for lack of a better word, the score sheet to see if it went down further or if it went up, and then we base our decision right then and there, and Brad, you have to be prepared for that.
My rationale for the second was to get clarity and also state that some of the things that you already stated. When you talk about the labor issues that we have a new labor union now, so I guess that'll be, what is September now? That'll be approximately 6 months of working with them. I can say to his credit, we have never had a problem or an impasse since I've been on the board with a labor agreement. Our collective bargaining agreements have been ratified and put through. So I didn't see that as an issue with the last labor union, so I don't think it should be one with this one. However, you had some problems that were popping up that there were labor issues that went beyond our control.
I'm
So I
asking
need
for
to,
comments related to the motion.
It is, but what?
And we have other people that make comments.
I don't understand, but I waved at you, and you took a note, I didn't know if you saw it or.
I'd like to have the comments be related to the motion.
Right, if you let me get through, they're on the motion. The motion was about labor agreement. It was about having the legislative things come back by March 31st, and that's what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
The inference would be, I guess, Commissioner Long, would that be on successful lobbying efforts, or we're looking at, when you say that that's
Well,
going to come back?
there are many metrics in the contract now that were not there before, and we had no real ability to evaluate our lobbying team. As you all, I think, are aware that at the end of this next session, our plan, remember, because you were part of that discussion, was to go out on an RFP for a new lobbying team. And so my thought here is, well, at the same time, we could potentially be looking for a new CEO. And to counter what one person said, I too have been involved in quite a few searches national searches actually, for a CEO. And it is time-consuming, labor-intensive, and there are ways to do it that doesn't necessarily have to cost us any money, that can be very effective. So we'll address that point when we get to it, but right now, there's a motion on the table.
We have a motion and a second. I'd like to recognize people that have not spoken. Did you have a comment?
Yes, I just want to clarify. Can you specify exactly what metrics we're going to be looking at by March 31st? Because that's a very short window.
I'm interpreting that as that we would initiate a process to update our performance metrics to tie in with the past.
Right.
Okay, and the second question, therefore, is, are we then going to complete another
Yes.
review
Yes.
at that time?
With one caveat, that I would like to have some directive from the chair, whoever that is at the time, that the board will take responsibility to complete it in a timely fashion. This one that we did here went on for ever, in my opinion. People didn't turn it in on time. Some people had a legitimate excuse. Other people, didn't.
Vice Chairman,
Thank
you're recognized to comment on the motion.
Yes. I understand that my my motion failed, and I can appreciate that, and I hear what everyone is saying. Option B with those caveats, though, for me, I feel it's just kicking the can down the road. Whether my idea of a solution is supported or not, I still think that I can really only support option C, so I cannot support option B.
All right. Let's move to a vote if we're really out of time for our allotted time. If you have just a quick comment related to...
Well, I just wanted to let Commissioner, Mayor Bujalski know that you can make that same motion upstairs. So, you are a board member, so it's not one that big.
Thank you. All in favor of the motion for option B as modified by Commissioner Long indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
That passes 4-1 with the Vice Chairman voting in the negative. Is there any other business that needs to come to the Personnel Committee at this time? Yes.
Got 6 people here, and we're getting 5 votes.
No, I'm not on the
You're
committee.
not on the board.
Not a
Okay,
member.
sorry.
Yay.
Just listening in. Okay, sorry about
Keep
that.
learning.
Okay.
Commissioner Newton, other business?
This is our recommendation to the full board, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Any other business? All right, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming.
Where's our...
Is there room? There's room?
Yeah.
I'm not one of the committees, so.
It was nice.
You look so official.
Do what, Joe?
You look so official.
Well,
It's okay to ask a question.
I just wanted very much to be here.
Right, well, every round, you know, that's, yeah.